That viral video of the men coming up the staircase with the guns in the apartment complex. The mainstream media put it out that I leaked this video, when in fact, the media already had the video. The reason Fox 31 had it is because the Romeros, who I moved out, had called 911 hundreds and hundreds of times and no one came. This reporter came straight to me. He goes, but it's bigger than this. The people that released this video to me, they still live there and they're trapped there because their cars are now filled with bullet holes. I said, you cannot release this video. These people will be murdered. So he gets me in contact with them. I spoke with the wife and I said to her, you guys are still living there right now. And she said, yes, we have nowhere to go. We don't have any money. We live paycheck to paycheck. I said, Cindy, I'm going to get you out of there. I was able to find a place for them to go, get a U-Haul truck, figure out how I was going to get their cars out of there. I assembled a small crew, but we were mighty, and I got these folks out of there.
My name is Derek Wolfe. I'm a Super Bowl champion and a 10-year NFL vet. Now, after a decade of professional football, I'm focusing on my other passions. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Today we've got Aurora City Councilwoman, Danielle Jurinsky. And if you haven't been watching the news or you've been living under a rock, you might know that a Venezuelan gang has moved into Aurora, Colorado and has been taking over apartment complexes and causing all kinds of havoc. So we're going to get the real story from somebody with boots on the ground. Well, Danielle, thank you for making it over here. Brandon, who's sitting over here in the corner, nobody really knows who I'm talking about right now, but awesome guy. He has introduced us together. And, I've been looking forward to talking to you because of all the bullshit going on in Aurora right now, right? And all the lies that are being told. And I just want to hear your story. So let's hear your story. Let's start from the beginning. Start from where you grew up in Aurora. Talk about the way you grew up. You started working at 14 years old. I've read your bio and everything, but I want everybody else to hear it. And let's get to where, to this point where we're at now. So let's just start from the beginning.
Sure. So I am born and raised in Aurora. Been there my whole life. And I went all 4 years to Overland High School, which is a very diverse high school in Aurora. And I love Aurora. I love the diversity of Aurora. We are the single most diverse city in the state. I think 8th in the country. I served 9 years in the military. 6 of those years I served in Aurora. I'm a graduate of Community College of Aurora. I own 2 businesses in Aurora. I'm a single mom raising a kiddo in Aurora. I'm very proud of my hometown. And basically during the pandemic, it's bars and restaurants that I own. And during the pandemic, I got very, very upset when the government shut down all of my businesses. But I was watching how, grocery stores and Home Depot, how they could just be packed and nobody was regulating that. Mm-hmm. I was watching protesters, specifically the protests in Aurora, where they were shutting down our highways. They came through and smashed out all of the windows in City Hall. They smashed out some of the windows in the courthouse. Some of them made it inside.
And you're talking about the BLM protesters, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. The summer of 2020. And some of them made it inside the courthouse and started setting trash cans on fire.
But that's not an insurrection.
Absolutely not.
And you're a racist if you say that.
Well, I've already said it, so they've already called me a racist. We're past that. And so I'm watching all of this, and there's just thousands of people. But yet we were all told, essentially, if you walk into a bar or a restaurant during the pandemic, you're just going to die.
You're a murderer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was called a murderer. Mm-hmm. I was at the Post Malone concert March 13th, 2020. And the next morning, and this was kind of when things were starting to come out, we were told on March 16th that we had until 8 a.m. on March 17th to shut down our businesses. March 13th, I'm at Ball Arena. I'm at the Post Malone concert. And none of us could really figure out what was going on. The next morning on social media, everybody's going crazy, saying that if you were at the Post Malone concert, you are a murderer. You're a murderer. And I'm thinking, what is going on? Well, then this announcement comes out on March 16th that we have until 8 a.m. March 17th to shut our business down, all of our businesses down. At this point, I owned 3 bars. And I was at home with a 5-month-old baby. I couldn't believe what I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I couldn't believe what was happening. This was the first time, I think, in my life that I really realized how much power the government has. And it affected me personally this time. And of course, at first we were told 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Everybody has to do their part. So I'm thinking, okay, 2 weeks, this isn't going to be a huge detriment. I'll still go ahead and get my staff paid. No big deal. 2 weeks turned into 10 weeks for the first shutdown. And it was during that course, because the first shutdown, we were shut down March 17th to May 27th. And George Floyd happened, I think it was like the 2nd or 3rd week of May. So that had already begun. And even when my businesses were allowed to reopen, it was at a very limited capacity. There was all this red tape, so many rules. We had to space out our tables, put in new air filters. It was crazy. And then I just continued to watch these protests mount and just seeing what was going on. Then specifically in Aurora, they started an effort to actually defund the police. This was an actual effort going on. They were holding virtual town halls about this, and I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. This can't happen. And then the final straw for me was we were still at a very limited capacity. But October of 2020, the current city council at that time in Aurora brought forward a $20 an hour minimum wage specific to Aurora, while our businesses were either shut down or at a very, very limited capacity. And that's kind of when the hammer dropped for me. And folks that have known me, knew me through all of this, I think they kind of watched this transpire, and all of a sudden I said, you know what? I've got to fight. I've got to come fight. I can't be quiet. I can't sit on the sidelines. I don't care what names they're going to call me. I have to join this fight. I have to have a seat at the table. Because right now I'm on the menu is how I felt if I don't have a seat at the table. And that's when I decided I started putting it all together. And it was February of 2021 that I announced I was going to run for the Aurora City Council.
And how did that go?
I won.
By like a huge margin, or?
It was the person behind me. I beat him by a pretty large margin.
Yeah. Well, so that shows you that the overwhelming majority are sick of the bullshit. Like they're sick of it.
Well, they are. And the thing is for someone like me, again, I have been in Aurora my entire life. So I naturally had a built-in network. I own 2 bars in Aurora.
You know everyone.
I know a lot of people in Aurora, and a lot of people know me. And to be clear and to be fair, these aren't just Republicans. It's not just Republicans that come into my businesses. It's not just Republicans that I went to Community College of Aurora with. But it's folks that know me, and they know me as a person. So before I've now become national, with regard to politics, it was very local and it was very personal. I know there's a lot of Democrats that voted for me for my seat.
Which it should be a bipartisan issue when it comes to freedoms as American. Like it's in our Constitution that we have the right to pursue happiness and to pursue success and for freedom of speech and for free enterprise. Like all those things are in our Constitution. Like we are born as Americans with those rights. And it's not the right to equal outcome, but it's equal opportunity. Right. So for them I dealt with it in the NFL, right? Mm-hmm. The COVID bullshit, the vaccine bullshit that went on. Really, it all started in 2016 with the kneeling stuff. I wouldn't kneel.
Right.
So then they painted me as a racist. So they're like, oh, he's a racist. He told, because I said, if you don't love America, why would you live here?
Right.
Like, if you don't love living here, then why would you can choose to go anywhere you want. It's not North Korea.
Right.
And they said, Derek Wolfe tells his black teammates to go back to Africa. That was a major newspaper wrote that.
Wow.
And then they had to but the damage was done. So now my teammates are looking at me like, did you really say that, dude? Like, and I was like, no, I didn't fucking say that. Like, you have to be an absolute moron, even if you did think that, to say that.
Yeah.
And then they told me I couldn't wear my Trump hat in the building. And then they were like, oh, you can't do this. You can't do that. You can't talk about your Second Amendment right or your First Amendment rights. You shouldn't be talking about any of that. Wow. I was like, oh, so I'm supposed to just be a sheep. It's because they were trying to get these huge TV deals, right?
Right.
And these are all major media corporations that are clearly far left for a reason. There's a reason. There's an incentive there because they're used as propaganda. So during the whole COVID thing, then I go to Baltimore, right? And Maryland is like on a whole nother level of woke.
Yeah.
And we get up there. I mean, I'm getting screamed at in a gas station for not having a mask on.
Yeah.
I'm told to ask to leave and all this. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, I have to go. You want me to leave and go put a mask on and come back in here?
Right.
Any mask. So I was wearing a mask around that was just like complete mesh. You could like see my face through it. People still were like, oh, that's fine.
I did the exact same.
And I'm like, this isn't stopping anything. Like, it's not going to stop a sneeze. Like, if I sneeze through this thing, it's going to get on you. So it was just really sad to see people just conform to it. Right. And I always revert back to when Moses took everyone out of Egypt. They all decided, like, after, suffering and having to be responsible for themselves, they were like, we'd rather be slaves.
Right.
So it's like, maybe people don't want to be free. Maybe that's what it is. But I'm not gonna stop fighting for my freedoms because I want my kids to be free and I want their kids to be free. And we live in the last free country in the world, true freedom. And this election right now is like the last hope we have of securing that and keeping that freedom.
Well, this election right here, I mean, this is the last hope for Western civilization, really, as we know it. And this is the fight. And, I started seeing, and obviously I live in a more urban area. But I think the thing, when it really started for me and when I became very alarmed about what was going on, the Venezuelan election that happened, and they were watching to see if Maduro, the socialist dictator in power, they were watching to see whether he was going to win or lose. And in theory, that's a great thing, because they wanted to celebrate. But what alarmed me is how 5,000 individuals can descend on one area, one intersection, one shopping center, totally undetected by law enforcement. No idea they were coming. So that could be 5,000 of any kind of people.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you're from.
Doesn't matter. That right there alarmed me, that we could have 5,000 people descend on one area. And they didn't just descend on this area. What they did is, this was a Sunday afternoon. In this shopping center, there's a Target, there's a Kohl's, a Noodles and Company. You had families, you had women and children that were shopping in Kohl's, that were shopping in Target, that all of a sudden became trapped. Their cars, the way they came into the shopping center, cars were parked in the rows, but they just came in and took up every row. So there was no way anybody was going to get their car out. I mean, they essentially trapped everybody in this shopping center. And I guess their way of celebrating, partying, their cultural way in Venezuela is shooting guns off in the air.
Yeah.
So that's what was going on. So all of a sudden on a Sunday afternoon, you have a woman and her children walking out of Target into this. And
But you're supposed to just be okay with it.
I was supposed to be okay with it. And I mean, I had constituents calling me. I had one man call me and he said, my wife is trapped in the Noodles and Company. She cannot get out the front door. She cannot get out there. She's hearing gunshots. He said, I'm getting my gun and I'm going down there and I'm going to get my wife out of this Noodles and Company. And I said, sir, I am not here to tell you anything either way. I am very upset about this situation and I am also trying to get answers. But I do know that people took it upon themselves to go out there, to go to the shopping center and get their loved ones out.
Yeah.
Folks, I mean, and some folks were trapped in their car for 7 or 8 hours. They just sat there the whole time, just sat in their car because they didn't know what to do. Police couldn't get into them. They were too scared.
Why couldn't the police get in?
Well, that goes back to the fact that this was totally undetected. This was totally undetected.
But even so, even if it was undetected, whenever there's a huge gathering of people, right, and they're shooting guns, and people are calling 911 and letting you know, like, hey, there's people shooting guns out here in broad daylight, like just firing guns up in the air. Like, that's not normal. Something's going on here.
Sure.
And we're also trapped and we can't leave.
Right.
Okay, the cops should come up and disperse that. What I want to know is, how many of these were undocumented? How many of these Venezuelans were undocumented? Well,
so that's the other part that I'll get to. And it wasn't just that they were shooting guns off in the air. A Target employee was assaulted. They went into the Target and they stole all of the alcohol that was on the shelves. And then they're just having this party, loud music, shooting guns off into the air. What the police told me, the police were so overrun that if we would have started to send in even 10, 20, 30 police officers.
What's that going to do against 5,000?
And we risk their lives.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
We risk the lives of the police officers. And what the police officers started doing, many of them, is they started climbing buildings in the area. And they just started recording. And they started taking photos to hopefully later identify some of the folks in the photos, which I believe we did end up identifying some of them. But what really alarmed me, and that very night, I asked for the National Guard to be called in. That's who should have been called in.
Yeah.
Because we were at jeopardy of, again, putting police officers' lives in real danger. I asked for the National Guard to be called in.
And what did they say to you? What was their response?
Nothing. I got no response. And then the coming days after that, I mean, if you go look at the social media for the Aurora Police Department, if you go back on their X account, if you go back on their Facebook account, I mean, they just put it out as if this was all good. This was just a friendly celebration and nothing to see here.
Yeah, because they don't want Governor Jared Polis to look bad. They don't want Jared Polis with his, I mean, this guy's got radical extreme ideas here.
Sure.
Like his sanctuary city bullshit or the sanctuary cities all around Colorado that he's implemented are going to, it's destroying the state.
Yes.
Like in the last 5 years, what's happened here is it's a disgrace.
Yes.
And it really, I mean, he's more focused on banning mountain lion hunting.
Right.
Than he is on fixing the actual issues. Like the Capitol building, go down there. It looks like The Walking Dead when you walk around.
Absolutely.
They used to, I mean, when I got drafted here in 2012, I was like, man, I'm from Northeast Ohio, man, where like Pittsburgh and Youngstown, like it's, pretty shitty areas. But like, even then, like you didn't see this is bad, what's going on down here.
Yeah.
And when I first got here, I was like, man, this is beautiful. It's safe. You can leave your car unlocked.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, you don't have to, like, I never felt like I had to walk around with a gun.
Right.
Like, I didn't feel like I needed a gun walking around Denver because it was pretty safe. Like, go out at night, no issues. But the years go by, it's less and less safe. Yeah. What is the determining factor? I don't know. Probably because you have a influx of a ton of people from different cultures coming in here that aren't willing to assimilate to our culture, which is, we don't shoot guns off in the middle of the fucking day in a shopping center.
Right.
Like, we don't do that here.
Yeah.
Like, we love our guns here, but we also don't fire them off and scare women and children in the middle of the day in a shopping center. Yeah. Like, you want to do that? Like, go out to the country somewhere and fire your guns off in the air. Like, go ahead. Like,
but
whatever.
We don't send that message when we don't make any arrests.
Exactly.
We don't send that message when we don't send in the National Guard. We don't send that message when we essentially are saying all migrants are welcome here.
And also here's a check.
Oh,
and here's a cell phone, and here's housing. And meanwhile, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the homeless situation was already bad.
Mm-hmm.
We already, like, the veteran homeless situation is even bad.
Right.
So we have all these issues. The drug problem is bad. The fentanyl problem is bad. All these issues, and you're more focused on migrants,
right?
Because that's votes. Because they're gonna make it so they can vote, and that's gonna keep them in power. And when I say them, I'm talking about they are absolutely gonna use their votes. They're gonna be able to vote. That's why they're giving them social security numbers and all this other shit. Like, if I was a first or second generation migrant who came here and did it the right way, like, people are waiting 10, 20 years to get their citizenship. But this, you got these people that are just flooding across the border, and not just anybody. We're talking about Venezuelans who have been released from prison.
Oh yeah.
And mental institutions. And that's a fact.
Yes.
The crime rate doesn't just drop by 70% in an area because everybody decided to change their mind. No, it's because they took them and sent them up to, they sent them here.
Yes.
Oh, there's a huge caravan moving up. Go ahead.
Right.
And for years, Trump has been talking about that, but they're like, oh, he's a racist because he's calling all these migrants. Yeah, we're not saying that. We're saying that, like, it doesn't matter how many good ones there are, how many good people come from another country, because I'm all for that. If you want to come here and work hard, do the right thing, and integrate into our culture, great.
Yeah.
But if you want to come here and bring your bullshit that you left with you, then I have a problem with that. It's I don't care what culture it is, the Muslim culture with Sharia law and all that bullshit. Like, I'm not for it.
Right.
It's not okay. We don't do that here.
Right.
We don't mutilate kids here. Like, that's not something we do. We don't throw gays off of buildings here.
Right.
It's not the way we do things.
Right.
So keep that culture in your own country where you came from, and keep it the fuck out of here.
Well, and to that point, actually, and as I stated, I mean, I come out of the single most diverse city in this state.
Yeah.
So you want to talk about embracing diversity. What I can tell you in talking with many, many immigrants in Aurora that have been here however many number of years, that contribute to society. They've opened restaurants. The food is incredible in Aurora. They are upset.
Yeah, that's not and those they're not the ones we're talking about here.
Right.
Those are the people we want. We want the best that you can bring. Right?
And
we
that's
want
why
the best that you got.
They're upset watching this. They're saying, Danielle.
They left that for a reason.
Yes.
They don't want to hear.
Yes.
That's when you talk to people that come from communism, they're like, I came here to get away from that shit, and I can't believe what I'm seeing.
Right.
They can't believe it.
Right.
They're just shocked that, people that grew up here are saying, well, we should all be the same, and we should all have this, and we should all have that, and the government should have more control.
Right.
And they're like, no.
Right.
We made that mistake. Socialism and communism has never worked.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
It's never worked. Socialism has never worked.
Yeah.
Not one time. Venezuela tried it. They were the third richest country in the world. And now they're eating rats.
Right. Right.
That shows you all you need to know.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, after this happened, and I didn't remain quiet, I was very upset, and I was very vocal.
What did you do? Like, how were you vocal? Were you like going to
social media?
Social media. Okay.
I went to social media. I called the city manager. I called the city attorney. This is when I was asking for the National Guard to come in. And some folks in the media caught my social media posts. And
are these on X, or are they on? Were they on X?
Yeah, my X account, and then I have a political Facebook page.
Okay. And
so I started getting calls from the media. What is going on? What happened? In your opinion? But what really alarmed me after this is that a number of police officers started coming to me, and not police leadership, police officers, boots on the ground, they started coming to me and they said, Danielle, you've got to know the truth about this. And yes, there are tens of thousands of these Venezuelan migrants here, but you need to know about Tren de Aragua. And you need to know about this Venezuelan prison gang that is in our city that has taken over apartment complexes, that are running massive sex trafficking rings, that are kidnapping people.
Kidnapping kids.
And I thought to myself, what? So I started investigating that. And I started talking to more officers, and I started talking to anybody who would talk to me, residents of that part of Aurora. I mean, I went out there. Myself. One day I went out there, and here's me. I pull up my car to one of these apartment complexes, and I get out, and I think I'm just going to go talk to people. Well, all of a sudden, I heard an alert whistle, and it was very clearly, I know what a catcall whistle is. This was an alert whistle.
Yeah.
Period. And all of a sudden, all of these folks started coming out into the courtyard area of this apartment complex and just looking at me. All military-aged men.
Yep.
I got back in my car and I took off.
As you should have.
I mean, had to. So then I just start asking questions about these properties. And that's when I was only being told about code enforcement violations. And I said, listen, I have police officers coming to me, telling me that they are not allowed to respond to these complexes unless they have at least 4 officers and an armored vehicle.
What does that tell you?
I said, I don't think they're scared of code enforcement violations.
Yeah.
I don't think that's exactly what's going on here. So then I started obtaining police reports, and I started getting police reports. And some police officers were helping me. Some people in the courts were helping me. I started gathering all these police reports and reading them for myself, and just horrified at what I was reading and who these folks were, knowing that they're here running free in North Aurora. And I'll tell you, they didn't stay limited to North Aurora, because one of the kidnappings, they kidnapped the man out of the Nome Street Apartments, which is the complex that we ended up shutting down. They kidnapped him out of the Nome Street Apartments. They dropped him off at Southlands.
Oh, yeah.
Southlands is like 470 and Smoky
Hill. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
Well, Aurora is a huge district. Like,
yeah.
It's a huge city. People don't realize how big it actually is.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when you talk about diversity, it has like it has like inner city, suburbs, it has Section 8 housing, it has farms.
Oh, there's a lot of rural areas.
Yeah, it has literally everything.
Yes.
It's like America all wrapped up into one city. One city. You know,
yes.
It's like all of America is wrapped up in there.
Yeah.
And really it's, you know, I used to live off of Smoky Hill. I used to live out there. So I lived right by the Southlands Mall. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
So for them to be, that's the other thing. There's a lot of kids around there.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of kids. And it is a pretty safe area and a really nice area.
Right.
So to know that they're moving into that area, I mean, the fact that Colorado, if Colorado doesn't flip in this election, which people are like, that's crazy, that'll never happen. If it doesn't flip, I think the reason why it didn't flip last time is because there was still too much like Trump derangement syndrome going on. Sure. And I don't understand how Polis was still able to, I don't understand how he was able to pull that off.
Right.
But he had like something's going on. And I think it's because people just aren't voting. Yeah. Because people are like, oh, it won't matter anyways.
I think so.
I think that is the goal. That is like the main thing we have to do this year is to get people in November to go vote. Right. To actually vote because it does matter.
Yes.
I know we're not like a crazy swing state, but it will matter. You know, if we can, it will matter when it comes time for president. We need somebody that's going to shut that border down. And who's going to, the only way we're going to get these people, Polis isn't going to get them out of here. No. He doesn't, he loves it.
They're still coming in.
Yes. He's still letting them come in here. Like he's still letting them come in, still not acknowledging it, still just worried about him and his husband are worried about destroying the hunting lifestyle. Like he doesn't want anybody to hunt.
Right.
It's insane. Right. Like, and he wants to reintroduce wolves and all this other shit that is going on. Like, dude, why are you focused on that and not the major problems that we have in this state that you've created, that your policies have created?
Right.
And he's not focusing on it. And it's sad to see. But I do think that people are waking up to it. Don't you?
I think so. And I'll tell you why. Because especially in Aurora, you know, so what ended up happening, that viral video of the men coming up the staircase with the guns in the apartment complex. Finally, I'd made so much noise. One day I get a phone call from a Fox 31 local news reporter. And he says, Danielle, you got to come meet me. And I said, well, I don't really have time. He says, you have to come meet me. I said, all right. So I go meet him. And he said, look, everything you've been saying about that gathering, everything you're saying about these apartment complexes, he said, I need to show you something. He showed me that video. So, and the mainstream media put it out that I leaked this video when in fact the media already had the video.
Yeah.
And the media came to me. And
because they were afraid to do it themselves.
Who?
The media? Is that why? Did they have you release it?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
Fox 31 already had it.
Ah.
The reason Fox 31 had it is because the Romeros, who I moved out, the Romeros had called 911 hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times, and no one came. The reason no one came is because there was very strict orders put in place for the police department that they could not respond to these properties without a minimum of 4 officers and an armored vehicle. So police essentially just stopped coming. So what the Romeros did as a last-ditch effort, and this was after the massive shootout. In fact, the day that video occurred, it was roughly 3 hours after that video, massive shootout, over 80 rounds exchanged in this apartment complex. One man ended up dead, but everyone's cars were filled with bullet holes. The Romeros must have 8 or 9 bullet holes in their cars. They got so fed up, they started reaching out to news tip lines. The first person they reached out to was Kyle Clark. They never heard back from him.
Oh, of course they didn't. That guy is scum of the earth.
Oh, I know.
Scum.
I think he's become my number one fan.
I get after him on Twitter, on X, because he is a far left propagandist.
Yes.
Like that's what he is.
Yes.
You know, he doesn't care about what's right and what's wrong. He only cares about the far left agenda.
And he cares about the division.
Yeah.
Because as long as there's the division and the chaos,
you can control.
So the Romeros reach out to him. They hear nothing. They just start reaching out to tip lines. And they said, you know, in their minds, if the cops aren't going to come, we've got to get this to the media. Fox 31 responded to them and said, well, what do you have? You know, what kind of video footage do you have? What are you talking about? What's going on? They sent a reporter to go talk to him. They see the video footage. They listen to their story. They think, oh my gosh. Well, I had already been so vocal in the media about this gathering, about these apartment complexes, about what police officers were telling me, about police reports I had read. This reporter from Fox 31 came straight to me. And I said, well, so what are you going to do? He goes, I got to release this video. He goes, but it's bigger than this. I got to tell you. The people that released this video to me, they still live there and they're trapped there because their cars are now filled with bullet holes. And I said, what? I said, you cannot release this video footage. These people will be murdered.
Oh, yeah.
Murdered. And he said, that's why I'm coming to you. I know that you'll do something about this. I said, all right. I said, well, you got to get me in contact with them. So he gets me in contact with them. And first I spoke with the husband and, you know, he was kind of, he was just kind of discombobulated. I mean, just beside himself. Then I spoke with the wife and I said to her, I said, you guys are still living there right now. And she said, yes, we have nowhere to go. We don't have any money. We live paycheck to paycheck. Now we need to come up with money for 2 deductibles for our cars to be repaired. And I said to her, I said, Cindy, I'm going to get you out of there. And she just started bawling her eyes out. She just started bawling her eyes out. And she said, you are the only one. You are the only one. She said, we have emailed the mayor. We have emailed different elected officials. We have reached out to all kinds of media. You are the only one that is willing to help. And I said, look, I don't have a plan, and I'm going to be very honest with you. This was just kind of sprung on me, but here's what I'm telling you. I'm going to get you out of there. And I worked it out with that reporter to give me roughly a week before he put that video footage out. So I had a week. But I was able to find a place for them to go, get a U-Haul truck, figure out how I was going to get their cars out of there. I had to very quietly and kind of under the radar assemble a moving crew, being fully transparent about the complex that we were going into. And I did. I assembled a small crew, but we were mighty, and I got these folks out of there. But even what I saw when I was there, all of the military-aged men, one who very intently watched my every move. But then what I saw too is the young women, and every one of them just looked like their souls had been drained from them. Well, I'd already been reading the reports about sex trafficking, kidnappings, all of these things. None of these folks spoke English, but I did, to 2 different women, I did look at them and I just said, are you okay? Are you okay? And they just kind of put their heads down and just went like this to me. But I know they're not okay.
Yeah.
I know they're not okay. And had either one of those women said no, I would have left with both of them without a plan, but I would have left with both of them.
Yeah, but they would have came and got them.
Well,
that's the problem.
Well, what I did, because I was very scared for the Romeros, I had police move in first and kind of sweep the area, large police presence before myself and the moving crew showed up. What I said and what was agreed upon is that the police would secure the property and not let anything move for at least 15 minutes after we left the property so that we couldn't be followed.
Yeah. That's smart.
And that's what happened. And so in my head, had any of those women indicated any kind of the truth to me, I would have left with them. I would have taken them.
Yeah, because they've got them strung out.
Yep.
You know,
you could tell. I saw it.
It's the saddest thing. I mean, there's just what do we have? 300,000 kids that are missing right now.
Yeah,
that's just kids.
Yeah.
So how many? What is it? We have millions of people that are just.
Yeah.
That who knows what their situation is.
Well, and who knows who any of these people are? Because even at the border, you can become Joe Smith.
Yeah.
You can give whatever name you want at the border. And Venezuela came out and admitted that they have cleared the backgrounds of all of these folks they let out of
murderers,
prison.
Rapists, sexual offenders.
Nothing's on their background.
All violent criminals.
Yes.
Mentally ill,
yes.
Violent criminals.
Right.
Gang members.
Right.
And those are the people that are coming up here.
Yeah.
Because they are told if they don't leave their country, they're going to be killed. So they're like, okay, I'll just go to America because they're just letting people across the border. Joe Biden says we're welcome. Well, Kamala Harris says we can come right in.
They're getting money. They're all
getting
have
a
cars.
$2,000 check.
Yeah. And rent paid.
And rent. I mean, why? I would do that too.
Right.
I would be like, yeah, sure. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Stay here and get killed or go get a $2,000 check, my rent paid and a cell phone and housing for a little bit. Why not?
And nobody can do anything to me because in this country, if anybody tries to do anything to me, they're going to be called a racist.
Oh, yeah.
And these nonprofit organizations are going to go after them.
Yep. Just like, anybody, if that's the problem, is the lawfare that's going on. Instead of warfare, it's lawfare.
Yeah.
They use the legal system to drain your bank account, drain everything that you have, drain your will.
Yeah.
Because if you defend yourself against anybody, it's considered a hate crime.
That's right.
And that's insane.
That's right.
That is insane to think that. I mean, this is an invasion, a full-on invasion. And that's the reason why we have the Second Amendment, is to defend ourselves against invasion and against tyranny. And in my opinion, we have been invaded. Yeah. And it's time. I'm not trying to incite violence, any of that, but I just, I've been accused of inciting violence, but I'm like, look, we're Americans and we fight for what we have. We have fought for what we have.
Right.
Many have died for this freedom.
Right.
So for another culture to come in here and think they could just take over,
right,
that they're wrong, totally wrong,
and not follow our laws.
Yeah, and that's all you have to do. If you came over here and followed the laws and became a productive member of society, no one says shit to you. No one cares.
Right.
Everybody's happy that you're here, working hard, contributing to society.
Right.
But when you come over here and you want to be a criminal and you want to traffic women and you want to traffic children and you want to traffic fentanyl and you want to do all this other bullshit and take over parking lots and take over apartment complexes.
Right.
That's the problem.
Right.
It's happening all over the country.
Right.
It's all over the country happening. And this is just like, people are like, well, why does it happen? I don't know. Maybe because the last 4 years they've been allowed to just pour over the fucking border.
Right.
What is it? 25 million?
That we know of.
How
many do we not know of?
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like look at how many terrorists have come across, known terrorists.
Right.
That they've just let across the border.
Right.
They're like, yeah, we know of, and they're like, oh, we're keeping an eye on them. Well, it's like, what do you mean you're keeping an eye on them?
And they're not, because how many have we caught now and made multiple arrests? How many have we deported multiple times?
And then they still end up murdering someone.
And they're
some innocent, it's usually women.
Right.
Innocent women, you end up getting killed or being trafficked or being kidnapped because you've now given him 3 chances. You've given some absolute psychopath 3 chances to come across the border and come back.
Right.
And just let him go.
Yeah.
He's been arrested for assault 3 times.
Yeah.
Well, maybe there's nothing we can do.
Yeah.
We've been told not to detain him.
Well, because Derek, we need to get to the root cause of their problems.
Oh yeah. It's our fault that their country fell apart.
Yeah.
It's not my fault. It's the CIA's fault. Fuck them. Like, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't have to pay for all this stuff.
Right.
Hey guys, I want to talk to you about one of my favorite sponsors, Juniper Mountain Coffee. Coffee without compromise. You're getting high quality coffee without the high prices. This is an American company that stands behind their values. They stand behind their coffee. These guys make some of the best coffee I've ever had. It's a coffee I drink every morning. Juniper Mountain Coffee works directly with the farmers, paying fair wages, and that way you have no middleman. There's no BS, no garbage. You're getting high quality products. So go check them out at junipermountaincoffee.com.
Right.
I would like to see my taxpayer money go to helping Americans. I would like to see my taxpayer money going to FEMA to help people in North Carolina and Florida and Georgia.
Right.
And down there, whenever a hurricane hits and we actually need, Americans need help, there's no money to help them because we're sending it to Ukraine. I know these are all different pots, whatever. I don't care. We have the money that can be transferred over to a different part, right? So like the $8 billion that you just sent to Ukraine, that can be used. Would be extremely useful.
Yeah.
But instead, you give everybody $750. What
Right.
The people that are coming over here illegally you're giving people $2,000 to break the law.
That's right.
And you're going to give an American who has been living in America, born in America, but because they're deplorable,
right? You're
like, well, $750. That's all we have.
Right.
And also, if anybody else tries to help, you have to know they won't even let them get communications. This smells fishy.
Yes.
Super fishy.
Well, and you look at, and this is my next fight, and I'm sure you'll see it in the media. Kyle Clark can't help himself but talk about me. But this is the next fight, is that I am going after the state office that was created, the State Office of Newcomers.
Wait, what is that?
Oh, this was an office that was created at the state level. And same office created in Denver. Denver created an Office of Newcomers. Well, where this funding came from for all of these NGOs to place these folks, and make no mistake, we doubled down in Aurora and we said, we will not be aiding in this migrant crisis. We are not a sanctuary city. Do not come here. There will not be help for you. So what we found out, and we're gonna get to the bottom of this, the American Rescue Act plan, that starts with the word American. It's that pot of money that went to these NGOs to fund putting them in these apartment complexes. They rented 2,000 apartment complexes, received roughly...
Who is they? Who's funding this? Is it taxpayer funded?
It came from the American Rescue Act plan. That's where this funding came from. And so Jared Polis created an Office of New Americans, and Denver created an Office of New Americans.
So that shows you right there that they don't think that they should have to go through a vetting process to become an American.
They don't even have to go through a vetting process to get an apartment.
You know what else really grinds my gears is when I'm at the airport and I'm standing in a TSA line and I watch them just like march immigrants right through it.
Yeah.
No screening whatsoever.
Right.
Like, I'm like, okay, who are all these people? Mm-hmm. And then because a lot of times I try to do it when nobody's there. So I go early in the morning or late at night. Mm-hmm. So that's when they're moving migrants around.
Yeah.
So they have whole planes filled with, a whole group of migrants. Like, okay, where are all these people going and where are they from?
Right.
And what are they here for?
Well, I've had Aurora police officers tell me a number of times that they have seen buses just randomly stop on a street corner
and unload them.
And just unload them. Hundreds of them
at a time.
Yes.
Well, just not long ago in Denver, they had that migrant issue that they wouldn't leave, and they started making demands.
Yes.
That they wanted fresh water. Mm-hmm. They wanted no limit on hot showers. They wanted no police presence, and they wanted fresh, culturally appropriate food.
Well, and you know how that happened? Another NGO, another nonprofit organization got themselves involved. This one's called All Souls. Got themselves involved and went out there and props all these people up for press conferences. And it is absolutely nonprofits. It is all of the NGOs that are behind this. The ones who funded putting them, there's three: Vive Wellness, Papagayo, and Village Exchange Center. These three. And if you talk to them, the directors of these nonprofits, they are swimming in money, flush with cash.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah.
Because they're being funded by these billionaires.
Yeah.
Like, that's where the money's coming from. When people have you done any research on where this money is actually coming from that's funding these NGOs?
Not the private money, but the government money is what I've been working on tracking down.
Yeah, because that's the real issue. Because that's an assault on Americans from our government.
100%.
That's a 1,000%. I'm all like, if those NGOs want to use that money to help those people get back to where they're going.
Sure.
Like, hey, we're going to have to send you back. Or if they're in imminent danger, like, there's ways to figure that, like, hey, okay, this person is fleeing because he was, because this wife like witnessed a murder. So she's fleeing with her children now. That's one situation that I think, I'm totally fine with us like helping that person out. Right. But when you got, like you said, how many military aged men have come across, like, it's not women and children that are coming across. It's undocumented military aged men who are here on a mission.
Absolutely.
Like, in my opinion, they're here on a mission. And people could be like, oh, it's all random. No. This is like a designed attack, if you ask me. And Americans are going to suffer. And it's
Americans
gonna get
are
worse.
suffering. I've witnessed it. Americans are suffering.
Yeah.
I mean,
Look at the
I have
strain they're
gone
putting on our
out.
economy.
Oh, absolutely. I've gone out. I've gone into these areas. I've gone into these parts of Aurora. I just had my public safety meeting this morning for Aurora. And, you know, I get these calls and I get these emails. And I have finally started telling my constituents, will you please come to my public safety meeting? Will you please come in person and share your story and talk about the nightly gunshots, what's going on in your neighborhood, what you've experienced? Oh, and how the police aren't coming. And let me tell you something. I am very pro-police, very pro-police. But the police leadership in the Aurora Police Department right now, the chief's office, this is unlike anything I have ever seen in my life.
Do you think it's corruption?
Absolutely, I do. I think it's self-preservation because they dropped the ball. Tren de Aragua first started being identified in Aurora August of 2023. August of 2023. I have the police report showing that November 14th of 2023, they went into, and I say they because we have confirmed this group was Tren de Aragua. They went into one of the apartment complexes. They beat up the property manager so badly. The video footage of it is public. They beat him so badly, left him laying on the ground. He was hospitalized. They held the maintenance man at gunpoint, told him, you will never return to work. They held the cleaning lady at gunpoint, robbed her, and told her, you will never return to work. What constitutes a takeover?
Yeah.
Because the police ended up coming and making a report.
But zero arrests.
But zero arrests. And this is where detectives started coming forward. Gang unit guys started coming forward and saying, Danielle, this is insane. This is crazy. And we're taking this up the chain of command. We're taking this up the chain of command. And in an embattled city like Aurora, where the police have just been drugged through the mud, going back to the whole defunding the police in the summer of love in 2020, our numbers on any given day,
mostly peaceful protesting.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But if you go back to that, I mean, on any given day, our Aurora Police Department is down upwards of 200 officers.
I mean, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. And so, a huge, like we said how big Aurora is.
Yes.
How is that?
Yes.
I mean, to bring it down, right? That's like, imagine if an entire school full of kids, right? Mm-hmm. Say there's 1,000 kids and you had 5 teachers. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. How much guidance or do you think these kids are actually going to get if there's like 5 teachers with 1,000 kids?
Well, did you see the FBI notification that came out specifically for the Denver metro area that Tren de Aragua put a green light on our officers?
Yeah.
This is real.
Yeah,
this came from the FBI. They green-lit our officers.
Yeah, but the problem is, Danielle, the problem is that the propaganda far left media has dehumanized police officers. Sure. They're dehumanized at this point.
Sure.
They're like, these officers are all bad.
Yep.
They're trained poorly. They are the worst of the worst, and we should defund them and this and that. And people really believe that we should defund the police. Mm-hmm. And then they call the police and they're like, why aren't the police coming?
Right. That's right.
Those same people will call the police.
That's right.
The mayor of Denver gets his car stolen twice and thinks, oh, that's no big deal.
Yeah.
Like, don't you think that's kind of strange that, I mean, the other thing that pisses you off is you drive around and nobody has a license plate.
Nobody.
Where are the license plates? But if I don't have my tags on my car, I get fucking fined and they can tow my truck if they want. Like they can, but if I have to have my tags up to speed, but you're not, I've watched a cop drive right by a guy without a license plate.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's illegal. You can't drive around a car without a license plate.
Well, the unfortunate part about the state is more and more, crime is being made legal.
Because they can't enforce it.
They can't enforce it.
Because they're overwhelmed.
Exactly. They're completely overwhelmed. And so that's why you find yourself in a situation, people think, well, how could this happen? How can an apartment complex be taken over? Well, when you are dealing with a city that, again, on any given day is down upwards of 200 officers, when an order has been given that for these specific complexes, you cannot respond without 4 officers and an armored vehicle, try to put all of that together.
Yeah,
so
you're not even allowed to respond. They can't come because they don't even have the resources to do that.
That's exactly right.
Because if they show up there, and that's the police commissioner, right? Whoever the police commissioner is, if he says he gives the green light on that every time a call comes in there, like think about how much that costs.
Right.
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 So now it comes down to pennies and cents, and we're talking about dollars. We're talking about how much it costs to send a cop, and then what does it look like? And
right.
they have to. Oh, and then it's like, oh, I want to be reelected as sheriff, and this and that. It's like, well, you're not going to get reelected if the crime is up. So all this crime is just going to go unreported.
Sure.
And that's why you'll see these, like when you watch any debate and they're like, oh, the crime is actually down. No, bullshit, because you're not reporting the crime.
That's it. They're no longer
crimes are not being reported.
They stopped calling 911. Like the Romeros, they started calling the media.
Yeah, because 911 is doing nothing. 911 means nothing. They're not coming.
And they can't. And they can't come. And I can't put that on the men and women of the Aurora Police Department because I know the reality of their situations, right? And when this green light came out, I mean, that should have been a huge, huge red flag to, I don't know, Jared Polis, to maybe then bring in the National Guard to help support our officers.
We wouldn't do that. That'd be he's racist. That would be racist.
Right. Too militaristic. Then it is militaristic.
Yeah.
You know, if we bring in the National Guard. Jared Polis, at some point...
These aren't Americans. These are illegal immigrants.
That's right. Well, that's exactly right. But the problem is, the other problem, Derek, is you can't call them illegals. And here's why. They're not here illegally. With this current system that Biden and Harris have set up, they're stopped at the border. They are issued papers with an asylum court date for however many years out.
Yeah.
But those papers allow them into the country legally. So now they are here legally.
Yeah.
Awaiting their court dates for their asylum hearing.
It's a loophole.
Not like the Remain in Mexico policy, where sure, you can claim asylum. You're going to be issued papers with a court date for your asylum hearing, but you're going to remain in Mexico until that court date happens. That's the other problem. That's the other problem our law enforcement is having is they're not here illegally.
Oh, this is insane. Insane
that
this is happening. And you know what's even more insane is that, I was shocked. We're not talking about like a low-level street gang.
Right.
We're talking about somebody who makes MS-13 look like choir boys.
And the police are saying that. The police have said that.
They've said that this makes MS-13 is ruthless.
Yes.
So for someone to say that about this Venezuelan, because think about that. Like these guys they said they're like sadistic. Like they don't care about human life.
Savages. They call them savages.
They don't care.
No.
So those are the kind of people we're dealing with.
Yes.
And the law enforcement isn't allowed to do anything. So at some point, Americans as citizens, they're going to start doing something. And that's what scares me.
Right.
Because when that happens, that's when people start going to jail.
Right.
And then instead of the person that's here legally,
right,
but on a loophole, waiting for his court date, shoots somebody's kid or rapes someone's daughter. Like that's the shit that's going on. It's
look at Lake and Riley.
Yeah.
I mean, we could go down a whole laundry list of names of women, of girls that this has already happened to. They're being raped. They're being murdered. They're being kidnapped. It's happening.
Yeah. It's happening right in front of our eyes. And if you address it, you're a racist. And that's the
right.
fact. That's a fact. That's what they do. That's their rhetoric.
Yes.
That's what they preach and push racism. And you're a racist, you're a racist, you're a racist.
Yeah.
You're a bigot, you're a bigot, you're a bigot. Like that's what they push. And they don't want to hear facts. They don't want to hear anything that's actually going on, any kind of truth. Because when you smack them in the face with it, they're like, oh, you're a racist.
Oh.
They have no other argument. Their foundation that they stand on is crumbling underneath of them.
That's right. That's right.
And I just don't see, I say it because I didn't see Biden win in this last election. But I do think it was because there was COVID. People were okay with like the fact that he wasn't giving any interviews because they're like, oh, it's COVID. He's an old man. Like
he's given a pass.
Susceptible. But now all you have to do is listen to Kamala Harris speak once. And you know right away that she is not the one that you should be leading our country.
That's why they won't let her speak.
That's why every time she speaks, it's just so bad. She has zero original thoughts.
Yeah.
Everything that she speaks is straight out of the Marxist handbook.
Right.
It is straight out, like she'll backtrack on things, but then she'll go back to it. And it's like, for anybody that is okay voting for that right now, I can understand wanting a female president. Understand that.
Sure.
And I am not against voting for anybody that's right and fit for the job.
Sure.
That's why I think DEI is bullshit. Because if the best qualified for that job that is being asked to be done, that you're applying for, your race, your sexuality, and your gender should have nothing to do with it.
Absolutely.
Your skill set and your resume is all that should matter.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's all I care about.
Right.
I don't care about any of the other shit. Like I don't care about, I'm a trans. Like I don't care about if you're a trans. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care about any of that.
Right.
If you're the best at the job,
we want you.
We want you.
Yeah.
Like I don't care about any of that other stuff.
Especially like to be a doctor.
Anything.
I mean, we want
it does not matter.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate to see, right? Because it's happening all. I mean, look at the bad leadership that we have.
Yeah.
All across the board.
Right.
No one's being fired.
Nobody.
All right, guys, I want to talk to you about a product that I've been using for a long time, over a decade. When I was playing football, one of my main staples in my diet was bison. I got my bison from Great Range Premium Bison. They make some of the finest cuts of bison you can get. These guys have ribeyes, ground bison, all the steaks that you want. My favorite part about Great Range is that you don't have to worry about antibiotics or growth hormones in their meats. Great Range Premium Bison is a family-owned company providing bison meat from family-owned ranches around the country. So please go check out greatrangebison.com. I come from absolute nothing.
Yep.
Appalachia, very close area to where JD Vance is from. Very similar life. My mother was an addict, no father. I had to figure it out on my own,
right.
But, I had equal opportunity to play football.
Right.
And I was born big.
Yeah.
And I was born with an attitude. And I was born with, I was bred into this football lifestyle.
Right.
So it was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. There's no other country that you can go do that in. Like we live in the greatest country.
Right.
And we're just letting it go.
Right.
We're letting it slip away.
Yeah.
I'm a big bow hunter, right? 10 million hunters didn't vote. 10 million in the last election.
Wow.
400,000 in Pennsylvania alone. That would have flipped the state.
Wow.
So think about that.
Wow.
So that's when I say that the voting that's going to happen, that people have got to get their ass up and go vote. Like, don't think my vote doesn't matter, because it does. And I don't care who you're voting for, just get up and go vote and participate in your government.
Right.
Participate, because if not, you're asking to be led by morons.
Well, because then also we know who the majority of this country really wants. But when there's large numbers like that of people not voting,
because they don't think it matters.
Right.
And after this election, my wife says it all the time. She says, I'm afraid that we're never going to have a fair election again.
I know.
Because I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, oh, I'm not going to say. That last election was bullshit. Total bullshit. And it's fishy, and all kinds of shit was going on, and pulling votes out of their ass and using dead people to vote. Like all of the things that they're doing.
Right.
Right. We can beat that though, because they can't if everyone is registered and actually puts a ballot in, they can't add anybody else.
Right.
Because we know how many people are here.
Right.
Right. For the most part, there's not enough immigrants over here to flip an actual election. If every American citizen goes out and votes. Right. They can't do it. Right. But you see it in California. California, they're all freaked out because they're like, California's going to flip. So they say, okay, if you live in the state, right, all you have to do is live here and you can vote. Right. That's it. Yeah. You don't have to, people call me extreme because I think you should have paid taxes before you can even vote. Okay. I think that you should be contributing to society before you get to vote. Right. Even with felons, I think that felons, if they're out of prison, contributing to society, they should be allowed to vote. They are. Right. They are. Yeah. As long as they're not. A lot of people don't think that, though. A lot of people think they shouldn't be allowed to vote ever. Well, what's interesting is I have actually been working in the felon population, registering them to vote. They don't know that they can vote. They don't even know. They have no idea that they can vote. And I can't even tell you how many felons, again, Aurora is a very diverse city. I can't even tell you felons don't know that they can vote. Yeah. So I've been working on registering many of them. This is, that's a huge part of integrating back into society. Right. It's being able to vote. Yes. Being able to have your say. Yes. Like, hey, look, here's my say. This is what I say. Right. We might not win, but at least I participate. Right. Right. Because if you don't participate, then what's the point? Like, this is what makes us a democracy, is the fact that we get to vote, and whoever wins the most electoral votes gets the presidency. Right. Yeah. And then whoever gets the presidency gets to hire the right people. You're hiring someone to run the business of America. Right. All right. Do you want someone who's never I always judge somebody by the type of children they've raised. Right. I have said this a million times. I know where you're going. And go and look at most politicians. Their kids are all fucking out of their minds. Yes. Like, they are, because their parents aren't around. Right. They're being raised by nannies. Right. They're being raised by, schools, and they go to boarding school and all this other, and then they see all the dirty, grimy stuff that their parents do. So their morals are all turned around. Right. And they have no more. They're like, why would I listen to my parents whenever they're liars anyways? And then you go look at somebody like Donald Trump, right? And all of his Say what kids. You want about him, but his kids and his grandkids and his in-laws, everybody that in that family is productive. And they love him. And they adore him. They love him. They adore him. I've spent a lot of time with him. I've golfed 18 holes with him. I've sat with him at UFC fights. I've hung out with him backstage at those fights. And the conversations that I have with him, you've been around enough politicians. You feel like you need a shower when you get done talking to him. Yes. Because you're like, this guy's so full of shit. Yeah. Or this gal's so full. It's disgusting. Yeah. I never felt that way with him. I always felt like I was getting a genuine person. Right. Right. And that's what people are like, oh, I wish he'd be more presidential. No, I want him to be himself. Right. I want him to be himself. Right. Right. I'm not hiring him to take a woman on a date. Right. I'm hiring him to run a business. Yeah. Right. That's it. Yeah. And hire the right people. And he knows how to hire the right people. And that's what's important right now. Yeah. And we are in dire times. And our country is in a total decline right now. Yeah. And we're facing a world war. We're facing a civil war. We're facing an economic war. Yeah. We're facing an internal war and an invasion from immigrants from all over the world. Yeah. Not just people are like, oh, you don't like Mexicans. I love Mexicans. This is Colorado. Yeah, this is not Mexicans. We're talking about a Venezuelan gang. We're talking about Chinese nationals. We're talking about people coming over here that want to see our downfall. We're talking about extreme Islams. Yes. Extreme Islamists. Yes. Like, those people are the ones that we're fighting against. And it sucks for the good people that are trying to come over here. Right. It sucks for them. Right. It sucks for the people that did it the right way. It's terrible. And that's why they're so upset watching this. They are so upset. The legal immigrants in this country are so upset watching this.
our money, it's not only, we're not just handing them money. We're not just paying for their rent and food and putting their children in our schools that the school systems are being forced to absorb.
The hospitals.
The hospitals. We are paying for immigration attorneys.
Yeah.
For all of them.
Of course we are. Because we're expected to do so.
Right.
We're expected to eat shit pie and say, thank you. Can I have another serving? That is what our federal government tells us.
Yeah.
That's why we want less government. Less government, more local government. Mm-hmm. Local government is where it's at. Mm-hmm. Like that's where, that's why I love talking to people like you, because you're like boots on the ground. Mm-hmm. You know what's happening.
Right.
So you know what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And it's like the federal government's like, well, sorry.
Yeah. Well,
and then your state government is like, well, they're newcomers. So we're gonna I guarantee he's on the board of these nonprofits. Well, his husband's probably on the board.
To quote our governor,
I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying like I wouldn't be surprised. It would make sense.
To quote our governor, not only did he not reach out and offer any kind of help, he issued a statement, and I quote, "This is largely a feature of Danielle Jurinsky's imagination."
Wow. And he's never stepped foot there.
No.
He wasn't. Before you say something like that, mm-hmm. you should go put boots on the ground and go stand there and see what's going on.
Absolutely. He never did.
I bet he would never do that without armed guards.
Oh, you betcha. He has
But he doesn't have death threats, does he?
Well, I don't know if he does or not.
Not like you got.
Not like I have.
How many do you think you get a day?
Oh, I don't. There's many that I don't know about. I get phone calls, from some police intel guys that just kind of let me know what they're watching, and I have no idea how many, to be honest with you.
And we're talking about, because you're talking about a gang, a vicious gang of savages.
Yes.
Who know who you are.
Yes.
Your life is at I just can't I can't believe that the state isn't like, hey, this is one of she should have a police escort everywhere she goes.
Right. Right.
Like there should be someone with her.
Right.
Wherever you go.
Right.
Because your life is at risk.
Sure.
It is.
Sure.
And a lot of people wouldn't be willing to put themselves in that situation. So I commend you on that and thank you.
Well, and I think for me, and I've had to think this through, and again, I'm a single mom, and it weighs very, very heavily on me. But as a veteran of this country, at one point I raised my hand and I made an oath, to this country that I will defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And you ask any veteran, you ask any American veteran, that oath doesn't leave you. It doesn't leave you. And you are essentially saying that you are willing to give your life for this country. And so I have had to sit back and think about that. I have had to sit back and think about my safety and think about my son. And there's a lot that I have had to think about this. But the one thing that sticks with me is the oath that I made. And I see it. I know what's going on. I have witnessed the absolute carnage. I mean, if you would go, and I think the thing that kills me the most is after this came out and after that video went so viral, these 3 apartment complexes for the past 6 weeks now, I mean, they have just been beaten down with police, the feds, the media, and you have people that are still going out there. There's nothing going on out here. There's no gangs out here. This apartment complex is just fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, because they're just hanging out on the street corner for the past 6 weeks since I came in and dropped a nuclear bomb on them. People are so out of touch. And I think the thing that kills me...
Do you think it's that they're brainwashed?
I think that's certainly a part of it. And I think in some of the nicer parts of the metro area, I think people just absolutely refuse to believe that anything like that could be true.
Yeah.
They just refuse to believe it.
Yeah, the people that live in Cherry Hills with a Harris Walls sign out in their front yard, they're like, oh, everything's fine.
Well, because here's the
thing.
But
go park your car at the Cherry Creek Mall. I bet it gets broken into.
Right. Well, if this was if this was an apartment complex that had been taken over in Cherry Creek or Greenwood Village, the National Guard would have been activated.
Oh, it'd have been yeah, it wouldn't have been even a question.
But it's the Democrats that stand up for the poor, the hungry, the minorities. It's them, right?
That's what they say.
That's what they say. If this would have happened in an apartment complex anywhere other than North Aurora, the National Guard would have been activated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Period.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's it. And the only person that went in to help these people is me.
Yeah.
That's it. And then the governor turns around and look, I signed up. Not just me. The Romeros who just lived through this war zone. That's the thing. I signed up for this. I signed up for public office. I put myself out there. And that's another thing that I've had to just accept, right? But folks like the Romeros who literally lived in this war zone, living paycheck to paycheck, they have nothing. Nothing. They're having to live through this. They're being called liars. They're being called slanderous names. And I don't know. I mean, I don't want to assume anything, but the last name Romero, Cindy Romero is not white.
Yeah.
The names she is being called. I think that is what is the most heartbreaking part of all of this for me. You're a public figure. I'm a public figure, right? To some extent, we've put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
We've put ourselves out there and we're going to say what we're going to say. And the criticism that comes, well, we signed up for this.
Exactly.
The Romeros didn't sign up for this.
No.
And the governor is saying, he's not just saying it's in my imagination. He's saying it's in their imagination by saying it's in my imagination.
Yeah. This is what they do.
Yes.
This is what they do. This is their part of their playbook. They're going to lie straight to your face.
Yes.
I mean, Kamala Harris is doing it now. She's trying to tell you that everything's fine.
Right.
Is it though? Because have you been to a grocery store lately? Have you?
Right.
I mean, have you been to a hospital lately? Have you done anything?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
But she walks around wearing designer clothes all the time and designer belts and necklaces and is living way out of touch.
Oh, because everything that she's wearing is worth more than what she's giving to hurricane victims.
Yeah, just her necklace alone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her belt alone is worth more than that.
Yes.
And she will tell you that you eat a shit sandwich.
Yes.
You say thank you.
Yes.
And then you ask for another.
Yes. And
that's what she wants.
And they just hammer down and double down on us about abortion. And in my opinion, this is how they win a lot of elections.
Oh, yeah.
In my opinion.
It's the lies. It's all lies, too.
It's all lies.
Hey, everybody. This episode is brought to you by Black Buffalo. Black Buffalo's nicotine pouches do not contain tobacco leaf or stem. What they do contain is a ton of flavor, and they're packed with pharmaceutical-grade nicotine. The magic of Black Buffalo is they discovered a way to make cured edible green leaves behave like the texture of tobacco. And they add food-grade ingredients for industry-classic flavors. You're in good company if you roam with the Black Buffalo herd. The business was built by dippers with decades of smokeless tobacco use. They manufacture their tobacco alternatives with respect for those products that came before them. Bold flavors, full pouches, metal lids, and a brand that stands for something, American. Their products are also proudly endorsed by brand ambassadors such as MMA Hall of Famer, Cowboy Cerrone, NASCAR champion, Brian Blaney, rising country star, Larry Fleet, and Rob O'Neill, former U.S. Navy SEAL Team 6. So if you're 21 and older and you consume nicotine or tobacco and you want to join the Black Buffalo herd, head over to blackbuffalo.com to learn more. You can order nicotine pouches online, and they ship directly to most states. Or you can check out their store locator to purchase pouches at thousands of retail locations around the country. Black Buffalo, an American brand, pouches worth respect. They're like, oh, Donald Trump's gonna going to get rid of abortion. He can't do that.
And he said he doesn't want to.
Yes.
That's why he was happy that Roe v. Wade was overturned. He wants it to go back to the states, the individual states, to make up their own laws. Donald Trump is not trying to ban abortion. No. But I laughed the other day because Kamala Harris went on she went on a podcast with this girl, and apparently You're
talking about the Call Her Daddy?
Call Her Daddy.
Yeah. You know how many views that had?
How many?
170,000. That's nothing.
Well, but what stood out to me
She went on Howard Stern too.
I know.
There's a giant,
she's doing a whole media tour now, but she would never come talk to you.
Never.
She would never come
I tried to get Polis to talk to me.
He'll never talk to you.
Wouldn't even answer.
He won't talk to you. But what stood out to me about this woman with the Call Her Daddy podcast is she said to Kamala, she said, have you ever heard of a law that has anything to do with a man's body? And Kamala says, no, never. And I was watching Fox the other night, and they briefly mentioned this, and then I thought about it. Well, what about the COVID vaccines? That included men.
Yeah. Where's the my body, my choice people?
What about signing up for selective service when you turn 18 as a man?
Yeah.
As a man, you don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. And if you're called to defend your nation,
you got to go or you get tossed in prison.
Period. So first of all, that's a lie. That's a lie. There are laws that dictate what a man can and can't do with his body.
Yep.
But the thing about abortion, they have just so overblown this that Republicans just want a national abortion ban and under no circumstances, not allowing any circumstances. It's a flat lie. It's a flat lie.
And my stance on it is, which doesn't really matter, like people probably don't care, but my stance is that like I'm all for a woman making a choice. I am not for late-term abortion.
Sure.
I am not for allowing a baby that was born out of a botched abortion and is still alive to be murdered. That's murder.
That's murder.
That is murder. I don't care what you call it. I don't care what else, what kind of bullshit name you want to put on it. When a living being is just allowed to just die, that can't take care of itself, that's murder and neglect.
Well, listen, if a woman is murdered and she's pregnant, it's a double homicide. What does that mean?
It's a double homicide. I mean, you're killing a baby.
Yes.
And all abortions are sad, right? Some of them I understand. I understand it. I'm a mother. I'm a father to girls, right?
Yeah.
And I am all for like a woman's right to choose.
Sure.
Up to a certain point.
Sure.
Right. You don't get to make it. You don't get to make. They want to make arguments about Down syndrome and this and that, and it's like, well, why? How come every person with Down syndrome says they have a way better life than like they're less right. They're happy people, right? They're not miserable people. Like I can understand if it's like, oh, he's good. This child is going to be born, like you could call it a vegetable, but never going to be able to move, never going to be able to talk, never going to be able to function. They're just going to be on life support forever. Right. I can understand that. Right. I can understand incest. I can understand rape. Yes. I can understand if your life is at risk, right? I can understand that as well.
Yeah. That's a tough decision, especially if you already have children at home.
Yeah.
That's not a decision I could ever make. I can't even imagine having to make that decision if it's my life or my child's life, if I have children at home. But I think that is the issue. And I agree with you about late-term abortion. But here's what I will say is, and who we fight against quite a bit are libertarians.
Yeah.
And the libertarian point of view is that the government should not be involved at all, no matter what. And we battle.
Okay, then they shouldn't be allowed to sell body parts from dead fetuses.
Well, and here's the other thing. Here's the other thing that really upsets me too, right? That woman didn't create that baby by herself. That included a man's body.
Yeah.
That included a man's body. And a man has no say whether or not this woman wants to abort this child or not.
Yeah.
But if this man wants this child aborted, let's just say, and she says no.
He's a piece of shit.
Well, he's slapped with child support for the next 18 years.
Yep.
He's run through the ringer. If he misses child support payments, they take his driver's license. They do. And he says, listen, I said I wasn't ready for a baby. I wanted an abortion.
Yeah.
So
that's part of being a man. Part of being a man is there's responsibilities that come along with this.
Right.
You don't get a say. You don't get a say.
The men don't get any say.
Yeah. You don't get a say.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that.
Sure.
It sucks.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that because I also don't have to carry a growing fetus in my stomach for 9 months.
Sure.
Right. But on the flip side, what if I want to have that? What if I want you to have that baby?
Right.
What if I'm like, hey, I would like to have that baby regardless if we stay together or regardless if you're in the baby's life?
It has happened to so many men. They have begged for a woman. Please don't have an abortion. Please have the baby. Give the baby to me, please. I have seen men break down over it, begging.
Well, how many men don't even know?
And how many don't even know?
How many don't even know?
Right.
A lot of men don't even know.
I know.
And it's, that's sad because a lot of men, probably would love to have even if that means that you're not with that person, that's okay.
Right.
And if you want to have a minimal role in that child's life as a mother, that's on you.
Yeah.
Right. And that's okay. Because you can see it on the flip side. Our government is totally fine with fatherless children. Right. Totally fine with that. But they're not okay with a motherless child.
Right.
Like if the mother doesn't want to be there, they're like, well, no, it's the mother's choice.
Right.
She gets all the decisions and all the choice here.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
But you also have to consider that it takes two people to make a child.
That's right.
Right.
That includes a man.
It takes a man and a woman to make a child.
Right.
Right. It doesn't take two men can't make a child. Right. Two women can't make a child, but a man and a man and a woman can make a child. Absolutely. That's it. Yes. Right. So it's a team decision there. And too many times women just get to make that decision without a man even knowing. Right. And, I think probably 80% of the time it's what's best. But it shouldn't be used as a form of birth control.
No. And the late term abortions. Another thing though, I have gotten into so many conversations with other women, and I can't even tell you how many women in this state don't even know what our abortion laws are. They don't even know what they are. So the abortion laws in Colorado are that a woman can have an abortion up to the day of her due date. So, if this
there should be a clause in that. If her life is at risk. Right?
Yes.
Or if there's an investigation into there's something has had to have gone wrong there. It can't just be I've changed my mind.
I will tell you how many women, because as a woman, I'm not scared to talk about abortion. I'm just not.
Oh yeah. As a man, I talk about this. I argue with and get into it with people all the time because I'm a man that believes in what I believe in. Sure. I believe in a woman's right to choose, but I think that there's a limit on that.
Sure. 100%. And when I talk to women in this state specifically who are just so gung-ho, they're going to take away our abortion rights and they want to control our bodies. I ask them, do you know what the current abortion laws are in this state? They have no idea. They have no idea.
All they know is what the media has told them.
And when I tell them what the abortion laws are, and when I tell them, okay, so that 17-year-old girl that got pregnant and, she went back and forth, maybe she was scared, but she wanted to have it. Maybe the guy wanted her to have it, whatever the case may be, right? She's now 8 months pregnant. And now at 8 months pregnant, this 17-year-old girl can say, oh my gosh, I'm terrified. I can't do this. Never mind. And can have an abortion.
That's not right.
And women don't know. Women
it's not a cluster of cells anymore.
That baby can live without you.
Yeah.
Period. At that point. Period.
There are plenty of people, there are plenty of couples, regardless of their sexuality, that are looking to adopt children.
Right.
Good good humans that want to raise kids but can't have kids on their own.
Right.
So at that point, it's like, hey, here's your options.
Yeah.
Like we can put you under.
Yeah.
We can numb you up and we can do a C-section and you won't feel a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll never even see that baby. And we will give that baby to a family who really is looking forward to it.
Or, okay, you're young, you're scared. You can also do open adoptions where you can still be a part of this child's life.
Yeah. Yes, there's all kinds of options out there.
People have no idea in this state. They just have no idea. And
I think it's all part of this population control that's going, and I think that goes into people thinking I'm crazy for saying that, but I think that these far left organizations like really truly believe in depopulating the earth.
Sure.
It starts with climate change and all that other stuff. Like they think that too many people are doing too much bad.
Yeah.
And birth is on a decline.
Right.
Like it's on an absolute decline.
Right.
So it's just, that makes me so sad because, like as a father, when you hold your child, it's just like the most amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Right. And, as somebody who, if abortion was just like free, my mom probably would have had an abortion.
Right.
If it was just like available and open for no big deal, she probably would have done that.
Right.
And I would have never been born.
Right.
And I don't know if she just used it to hurt me, but she used to say that to me, that I wish I could have aborted you, like things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those kind of things make me, that's the only reason why I'm so outspoken about it, because, it's easy to, as a man, to just be like, oh, I'm a man. I don't get it. I don't get to say shit. Right.
Right.
Like, I don't get to say anything, but at the end of the day, like, I don't know. I think it's sad.
I do too.
I think it's sad. And I think that we are on a path. If we allow people to just like have abortions willy-nilly, then do we really even care about human life anymore?
Right.
Or is it even important to us?
Right. Right.
Because that's the way it looks.
Right.
So I guess, we can wrap it up, but I want to know what are your next steps? What are you going to do next?
Well, my next steps are obviously be at the Trump rally tomorrow and highlight my hometown. I love my hometown. I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait for President Trump to come visit my hometown. And then after that, I've got to gear up for my own race next year. I've got to run for re-election in Aurora next year, and I've got to hold my seat.
Yeah.
Because if I don't hold my seat, I can't move on, to anything else.
Is that what you want to do now? Do you be a public servant? Is that what you want to do?
Yeah.
That's what politicians are. They're supposed to be public servants.
100%. I know that I do. I just don't know what that looks like. My passion for Aurora right now is just so ferocious that I don't feel confident that I can just leave the people of Aurora right now and that Aurora would be okay.
Yeah.
So it is so important to me to win my election next year, see kind of the trajectory and who's going to be in the White House.
Yeah. That's the scary
Because
part.
that's going to be.
That's what's going to happen. Right?
That's right.
It's like everybody's afraid to make a move anywhere.
Yeah.
Because they're like, what's going to.
That's right.
It's an election year.
That's
it doesn't
right.
matter what kind of election it is. An election year is always.
Yes.
It's always like nerve wracking because you
Right.
don't know what's going to happen.
Well, and so that's going to be, if President Trump is back in the White House, I will feel pretty good.
Yeah, because
overall.
you know that he's not working against you.
That's right. That's right.
Right.
And so maybe
the
at
federal
that
government
point,
itself is not going to be working against you.
Right.
You might have Polis will be working against
Always,
you.
forever, probably at this point. But it's just for me, I want to win my race. I want to win re-election next year. And then I'll just really have to go from there and see who's in the White House. See if I see a spot for me higher up in politics in this state. And really it's just one thing at a time for me right now.
Well, Danielle, I commend you because most people would be looking to advance and you're not. You're looking to stay and fight.
I've got to fight for my
and
hometown.
That's what I was going to, that was part of my speech that I wanted to say tomorrow at Trump's rally is that, I've made Denver my home. Colorado is my home.
Yes.
The boats are burned.
Right.
I'm not like a lot of people like, I unfortunately have to leave. I'm going to move away. Well, no, that's the problem.
Yeah. Fight.
You have to stay and fight.
Yes.
Like if you don't stay and fight and you run, it's cowardice.
Yeah.
So you have to stay and fight.
Right.
You have to, try to do the right thing. And you're doing that. You're like walking proof that the average citizen can make a difference.
Yeah.
And I commend you. And I really appreciate the time and looking forward to hearing from you tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate speaking with you.
Of course. All right. Thanks for listening to the Wolfe Untamed podcast. Be sure to check me out on Instagram, DerekWolf_95. Check out the Wolfe Untamed podcast on YouTube. You can listen on all the other platforms, as well as DerekWolf.com.